Welcome, guys and gals. I put together this, let's see if we can get this, there we go. This TM setting checklist. It's just kind of a mental framework to think through when you're setting an appointment. Check off these one at a time and make sure you do a complete job. And if done properly, you should have a near 100% show rate, 90% or higher. Like, it should be rare that somebody doesn't show up. That's really important. And it solves two problems. The higher likelihood that they show up, the higher likelihood that they buy. If they just kind of show up by accident, like if you just copy and paste like a robot, half the people show up anyway, but it doesn't really mean they're bought in. If you do a thorough job, almost everybody will show up and they'll all be bought in. They'll be much more open. And if you can screen out unemployed high school kids and just other people that just have no way of affording this program, that's a bonus for everyone too, including them. So I broke this down into some parts. The introduction, that's your first outreach message. You can do that any way you like. The idea is to kind of catch their attention and not look like every other jerk out there. So something just a little original, a little bit friendlier than the common message they get, a little bit more professional. You can a little bit funnier. You can really kind of experiment with it. Generally, people respond to people they think are cool. Okay, not always. You might have a person that's very businesslike and they may respond to something more professional, but on average, they just want to talk to like a regular human being. So, and you can even look at their profile and say, oh, I see you're from Cincinnati. I grew up in Cincinnati. Or if you can throw in something like that, that can absolutely be helpful. Voice messages work great. If it's depends on the voice message to an extent, but that stands out. That's something they don't normally get. They're getting a ton of messages, usually very robotic messages, often from call centers where the person setting the appointment really doesn't care about them at all and is just trying to hit their quotas. So the more you can not be like that, the better. And then once you get on there building rapport, it's just kind of a follow through. So maintain the same voice, let's say. So if your introduction is kind of playful, then keep a sort of playful rapport. If your introduction is very businesslike, keep a more businesslike rapport. Just do what comes natural to you. Don't try to be someone you're not, because that'll get exhausting. It'll take a lot of energy to keep up the facade that you're, Mr. Cool or Mr. Playful or Mr. Businesslike or Mrs. Businesslike or what have you, if that's not really your natural personality. So don't go too far outside your sort of natural temperament. That doesn't mean that you should make some effort to be, the best version of yourself, but don't stretch it so far that it's requiring a lot of energy. Do what comes naturally so that it's fun and easy, and you can maintain it for indefinitely, so that it's as effortless as possible. Once you build that rapport, you want to offer some value. That can be something very simple, like, okay, listen, let's see if this opportunity is right for you. I'd really love to see you get into this high ticket space and start making that 10K a month or whatever. It can be just one sentence. You're just kind of spiking the value. What they want is to get into high ticket in this particular case. So, and they're probably not having a ton of luck with that so far. So just a hint towards that is fine. Okay. And then you want to start, asking your questions. Right? Where do they live? Where do they work? What was their last job? Have they ever done any sales? Have they done any appointment setting before? Right? And be as curious as humanly possible. The more questions you ask them, the less likely they are to ask you questions. And you really want to understand them, because they might not be, if they're a 16-year-old high school kid with no job and no money, and they're just hoping to kind of get some kind of side gig entrance into the space, and that's not what your solution is, then you want to get that out of the way up front. Kind of say, well, this is actually also a training program. Because how do your parents support what you're doing? How do they feel about this idea of getting into the high ticket? Do they know about it? You can ask questions like that without offending them, and just see if there's any chance that they might have some money. Because if they don't, if it's just physically impossible for them. Like even if they sold their bike and their skateboard and everything else, then you're wasting your own time. You're wasting their time, right? You're kind of wasting everybody's time. So that'll get. Initially, you might think, well, I'll just throw it up and maybe it'll work out. Maybe I'll get lucky. But if you keep doing that, you'll get discouraged eventually because you'll have so many of those appointments that you were hoping on kind of luck to carry you through, and they don't work out. And then after, before you know it, you set 30 appointments and 15 of them haven't showed up, and 10 of them were just not any good, and there was really only 5 that had any chance, and you'll lose your energy, you'll lose your motivation. So it's in the long run, it's not a good strategy. Handling objections. We'll talk about that as we go forward, but the best thing to do with any objection is agree first. Oh yeah, absolutely, right? No matter how stupid their objection is, it's always, oh yeah, definitely. Oh, I see what you're saying. That's great. Okay, so that's the first thing you do. So always kind of agree, and then you ask them a question to get more information about what their objection is. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Call to actions when you ask them, well, hey, let's get on a call and let's see if we can help you. And then appointment confirmations after they book the appointment, you tie down the appointment and secure it. But really, if you've done everything else, your show rate should be very high. An appointment confirmation is kind of just an extra. Like tying down the appointment at the end will help definitely, but what'll help the most is doing a thorough job throughout the appointment setting process. So just extending the overall interaction to 10 minutes instead of 5 minutes can make a huge difference. Just spending a little extra time, being a little more thorough, making sure you understand them, making sure that you're trying to help them, and not just get them on an appointment and hope that it just 1 in 100 turns out or whatever, even though they really weren't the right customer. The power of the introduction. So starting from the top, that's your first contact. That's representing yourself, the company, your product and service, everything kind of in that original opening statement. So you can experiment with that. It doesn't want to be too goofy, but you don't want it to be too robotic either. So you need to strike a balance, and it needs to be not sound like everybody else's. Like see if you're a right fit. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's a good word track for sure. The problem is that it's so overused at this point. It has the tendency of looking like everybody else's message that they got, and you don't want to look like everybody else. So if you use like the word fit, try to do something in the way that you phrase it in the overall outreach that makes it different than everyone else, even if you use some of the same language. Stand out, right? Be original, but be yourself. So like I said before, this little kid here on the left, he looks a little sly. The one in the back looks a little tough. The one up front here, this girl, she looks super friendly, right? Go with whatever your temperament is. If you're kind of a serious person, be kind of serious. If you're kind of a playful person, be kind of playful. Just stay professional, stay polite, stay positive, but be yourself, and don't expend energy going outside of your comfort zone too much, because it will get exhausting. It's easier just to DM just like you would be doing with your friends or your mom or whatever, where it's nice and easy, doesn't require a lot of energy. You're just talking to the person, but you're mostly asking them questions, and you're just really, really curious about them. That's really important, that you're pathologically curious. When in doubt, ask a question. When in doubt, what question to ask? Ask yourself, what am I curious about? What do I want to know? Nobody can really tell you that. What is it you want to know about this person? That should be the next thing out of your fingertips when you're typing. What is it? If they ask a question and you think, well, why are they asking that question? You're like frustrated. Ask them, why are you asking that question? Be more curious than they are. Win the war of curiosity. So first message, first impression, first message sets a tone for the conversation, and then you want to kind of maintain that kind of thing. You do want to adjust. If you send out kind of a playful message and they seem a little curt, right, then you're going to mirror their temperament. So if they seem really businesslike, you want to tighten it up a little, be a little more businesslike. If you started off too businesslike and they're like, hey bro, what's up, man? A little more casual, then you want to loosen up a little bit. Okay, but not so much that you're way outside your comfort zone and using, like, I can get away with saying, oh yeah, brother, yeah, that's cool, dude, yeah, no problem, man, because that's my personality, so it comes naturally to me. But if it gives you, if that's like feels phony and requires mental energy to talk like that, don't do it, even if they are. Just be really polite and really positive. Okay, great. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's outstanding. Just be positive, but you don't have to. If they're saying cheers, mate, and using all kinds of slang or whatever, that doesn't mean that you're required to do so. It just means you have to continue to be polite and positive and friendly. Uh, Given the high volume of messages your prospect received, what makes you different? We've talked about that. Just how does your message stand out a little bit so it doesn't look like every other message, and it makes them more inclined to respond to you. So get your response rate up yet. If you send 100 DMs, there's a big difference between getting 20 responses and 30 or 40, right? If you can get 50% response rate, then maybe you only need to send 30 because you get 15 responses, and if you get really good at it, maybe you can set 5, 6, 7 out of 15. That should be ultimately sort of what you're striving for. That's probably not going to be the case at first. That's why we recommend you send 150, because we know you're going to get at least 20, 30 responses, and out of those you should get at least 4, 5, 6 appointments if you talk to that many people, even if you're just kind of doing the copy paste method. But ultimately, over time, you're trying to get a higher response rate. So kind of A/B test your strategies for your response. If your message you're sending out is getting a poor response rate, like 10% or even lower, you need to change your outreach message. You're not getting a high enough response rate. So you want a high response rate, which I would say like 30% is a nice target. Trying to be in that neighborhood. Definitely over 20, and sort of with a goal of 40. But that doesn't mean if you don't get 40 you're doing bad. It's just keep that in mind. Try to keep that response rate up so you're not sending out millions of messages without getting a lot of responses. Oh, I don't know. I put this. That's my mistake here, but it's the difference between being ignored or having a meaningful conversation. So you send out, a message that's kind of not catchy enough. Too many people are just going to blow you off and not respond, and that's not going to do you any good at all. Whereas a nice opening message can get people coming back really warmed up already, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, what's up? Hey, oh, I'm so glad you called." Kind of idea. Oh, it's so nice to hear from. Had people say that. Oh, thank God, it's so nice to hear from an actual person, like just from the outreach message I sent, because they immediately go, "Oh wow, this is so refreshing compared to all the other ones I got." So that's kind of what you want to be thinking about. Uh, and then that says something about your company. I would say that it says you guys are cool, you're laid back, you're friendly. It's a nice, easygoing work environment. It doesn't. You don't need to worry that it makes you look like a bunch of goofs. I mean, you don't want to be too goofy, but you don't want to worry that you're oh they're not going to think we're professional enough. That's not typically a problem unless you go way overboard. Uh, Usually, what they want to think they like to think of this as this fun job, like sitting next to the pool, doing while they're on vacation, drinking Mai Tais while they're setting DMs, right? So they want to think of it as a fun job. So it's okay to sort of give that impression. Yeah, we're having fun over here, right? Uh, Rapport. Rapport builds trust. So if they like you, they're going to trust you more. Okay. So rapport, that's just being easygoing, polite, friendly. Okay. Everybody has their own way of kind of doing that. You don't want to go spend too much time, go way too overboard. If it so happens that you guys are both fans of the same football team or something, that's fine. Be like, oh, that's great, go Dodgers or whatever, and then a little laugh emoji or whatever, and then get right back to business. Don't waste too much time on that stuff. It doesn't take much. It's like, oh, you guys are both Dodgers fans, great, okay. Well, hey, listen, and then you just kind of jump right in. Okay, so make it genuine. Establish a little rapport, but don't go off on a tangent on it, because in the long run, that's not a good idea. Generally speaking, it is not in every case, but usually you just want it to be kind of short and sweet, genuine, polite, friendly. Oh, that's great. My grandma lives in wherever they are. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time there as a kid. Oh, that's cool. So, hey, listen. How long have you been in sales, or how long have you been looking? Just kind of change, nice, easy transition, change the subject, and start talking about business in a really polite, friendly, easygoing way. Um, so personalization, common ground, right? That's good. But like I said, don't harp on it. It's just that you're being human, right? You're establishing that you're both humans. You're both cool, harmless human beings, and it doesn't need to go much beyond that. And if you did notice something, like you guys grew up in the same hometown, that's great. Like, I can't believe that. What a coincidence. We're from the same place. But then move on. Be genuinely curious about them. Okay. I mean, genuinely. I can't overstate that enough. You have to be constantly asking questions and follow-up questions. Okay, the more you know about them, the better, and they can disqualify themselves. And if you get the impression through your questioning that they are unemployed, they do not even have, they're not even on like disability, their cars broke down, they can't even afford to fix the alternator, they're living at their parents, they're, you know, if that sounds like what's going on, don't just be like, oh well, we'll just see if it works out anyway, and put it on the calendar and take up a spot that could have gone to somebody that had a dollar. Just say, hey, listen, I don't know if you know, but a lot of these companies, you know, do charge for training. We do have a refundable training deposit. Is that something that you might be able to do? Which, you know, what's your current financial situation? You know, by then you should have established enough rapport that asking a question like that doesn't sound like, whoa, who the heck do you think you are asking me about my financial situation? Like by then you guys should have a really uh, easygoing conversation going, and you can just go, oh, that's too bad. Yeah, times are tough. Inflation's out of control. You know, commiserate, right? Say, yeah, the economy's just messed right now, isn't it? So are you having like, how are you paying your bills right now? Like, it must be tough, you know? And just be totally like that, and they'll tell you the truth, and they're like, yeah, I think in your case, you know, I mean, you can just ask them, listen, any chance you have like outstanding credit, right? They might be broke, but maybe they have amazing credit. And they'll usually just be like, no, not really. My credit's kind of below average or whatever. Be like, oh yeah, say, yeah, I don't know if we could get your deposit lower than $625, you know? And they might say, oh, I might be able to do that. Boom, you got a great appointment then, right? You got a fantastic appointment now, right? If they say, oh yeah, no, there's no way. I don't even have $200, right? I can't even afford to put gas in my motorcycle, right? Right now, I'm so broke. Then, uh, you know, you can set the appointment, but nobody's benefiting from that, including yourself. And like I said, if you keep doing that, you're gonna get worn out. You're gonna be like, how come none of my appointments are closing? Well, it's because a lot of them aren't showing up, and a lot of the ones that are just had no chance. So, and you're just gonna get totally discouraged. You're gonna be like, this sucks, and you don't want that. If you just spend a little more time and effort up front, yes, it'll take you a little more time. Yes, you will lose some appointments that you would have set had you just ignored all that stuff, but you won't lose that many appointments. You'll still set, you know, probably 80% of the ones you would have anyway. So you'll set 4 instead of 5, or 5 instead of 6, or something like that. But they'll be much better appointments. You know, you'll get way more commissions out of 3 or 4 really solid appointments than you would 5, 6, or 7 kind of half appointments. Even the ones that of that group that would have set anyway will be much more likely to convert if you went through a thorough process. So there might not be anything wrong with the person, and had you set the appointment better, you would have set up a much better situation for that converting. But you were kind of lazy when you set it up, and so that person comes in and they're not really warmed up. Their sales resistance is high. They're expecting, their expectations are too high. They're shocked by the fact that it's you know, it's not like a what you might call a real job interview. Although you'd be surprised how many of these people show up with no shirt on, you know, sucking on their vape, and then they act like somebody's pulled a fast one on them when it turns out not to be a job interview, and they're on their phone, they're walking around their backyard. It's like, well, if you thought this was a job interview, I mean, like a real honest to goodness job interview, you know, where's your resume? How come you're not wearing a shirt? Right? I mean, that's a fair question, right? So try to, you know, um, kind of think about these things as you're setting the appointments, right? Like, try and get serious people that want to turn this, that are serious about this and want to make a career out of it, even if it's hard at first, even if they don't make very much money right away. They're willing to stick it out because it's really important to them. Those are the people you want. And so getting to know them, and if they're a joker, challenge them a little bit. So just be like, so you don't really want to do this kind of long term. You're just trying to get like a couple few $100 on the side. And sometimes they'll go, oh no, 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 no. Sometimes then suddenly they'll get defensive and say, oh no, no, I'm serious, you know. But make them say it, you know. Like if they were acting like blasé, or, you know, acting in such a way that, you know, kind of giving off negative or cynical energy, then, you know, challenge them a little bit. Make them stand up and say, oh no, no, I'm serious. I want to be in this business, you know. Um, so just be the question asker, not the question answerer. Right? You're there to find out if they are the right person to come over here in a whole bunch of ways. Do they have a little bit of money, right? Are they totally broke, right? That's one of it. The other is, do they have any work ethic, right? Are they going to quit the first time things don't go their way, right? Because this is a tough business, okay? And you're starting at the bottom. You're starting at the very bottom, and most of the people that come here have, no experience, not only in high ticket, but they don't even have any sales experience. So it's going to be an adjustment, and any of these training, coaching, mentorship things are going to be hard. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's dating or diet or business, advertising, trying to fix their advertising funnel. All these things require, like real effort. And so, you don't want to scare them away and be like, oh, this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done if you're not, if you don't have what it takes. I mean, you can use that strategy, but you don't want to be the opposite either. You don't want to be like, oh, don't worry, hour a day, 10K a month, no problem, bro. And then, they find out, well, that wasn't exactly true. So be genuinely curious, just constantly trying to dig down deep into what's going on with them to see if you can help them, to see like how badly do they want to change their lives, how badly do they want to get into this great space, because this is a great space once you get the hang of it. Once you understand it, it's one of the best jobs in the world. Certainly for people without a ton of education or training. I mean, I'd rather do this than be a brain surgeon, but I mean, if you are a brain surgeon, that's fine and dandy. But for everybody else that doesn't really have a passion or a specific career yet that they're passionate about, I think sales is a fantastic career, and this is kind of the pinnacle of sales, this space. Remote closing, remote sales, whatever you want to call it. Open-ended questions. Don't ask yes or no questions unless you know the answer is yes, generally speaking. Okay, so like, well, don't you think it would be beneficial to have some one-on-one coaching with somebody who's already done it before, somebody who's already making 200K as a closer? Don't you think they might have some valuable insights for you? Well, they have to say yes. They can't say no. I don't see why that would be, right? That would be highly unlikely. They're probably going to say, well, yeah, I can see that. So if you are going to ask a yes or no question, make sure that the answer is going to be yes, generally speaking. But usually you're asking open-ended questions. So tell me a little bit about what your work history so far. That's an open-ended question. That leaves a lot of space for them to go off. Well, I've been, right now I'm in construction, or I've done some retail, I've done some customer service, whatever. I've been appointment setting for 3 months, what have you. And then ask, anytime you get a chance to ask a follow-up question, if anything about their answer piques your curiosity, absolutely ask the follow-up question. Don't just move on. Like, make sure you get to the bottom of it. Make sure you understand as much as you can about the person. Be conversational, not transactional, and mirror their style. So, like I said, if they're super business-like, don't be too playful. If they're super playful, don't be too serious. And be conversational, not just like robotically transactional. Like, well, where do you live? Where do you work? Can you do 15 hours? Okay, I think you'll be a great fit. That's transactional. Be conversational. So hey, listen, what kind of work are you doing right now? Like I said, match it to your own personality and temperament, but be conversational. Okay, I can't read this because my picture's in the way, but active listening means listening to not just the words, but the meaning, right? Look for the hidden meaning behind what they're saying. And if you're not sure, like if they ask a question, like they say, is there group coaching? Don't just say, yes, there's group coaching, right? Because they might hate group coaching. Like that just might, oh, okay, I'm not interested, bye, right? Whoops, shouldn't have said yes. If they say something like that, say, well, we have some collaborative stuff we do here. Look, do you mind if I ask, like, why do you ask that? So I can make sure I answer the question correctly. So we're on the same page, something like that. And then they say, well, I did a program that had group coaching, and there was 200 people on the calls, and I couldn't get anything done. It was a total waste of time, blah, 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 blah. Right. So that you can see where, if that was the case, then answering yes to their group coaching or group training calls or whatever question would have been, might have killed the appointment right there. So make sure you're not just listening to the words. Make sure you're, trying to understand what they mean, what they're thinking as much as possible. Hear. We'll talk about that in a minute here, because there's a technique for that. Why rapport matters. You're building trust. Okay, you're lowering sales resistance. You're always saying, "Oh, great, that's great. Oh, yeah, yeah." Anytime they ask a question, you say, "Oh, that's a great question. Listen, let me." You're just being as cool and casual about it as possible. So you're getting them to just settle down. You're not like pushing anything on them. Like if they don't want the appointment, that's fine. That's fine. Maybe this isn't for you. The space isn't for everybody, right? That's fine, right? That's another thing. Be ruthlessly detached from the outcome. Just do your process, do your job, do it right, make it repeatable so you do the same thing every time, and don't worry about whether it turns into an appointment or not, or a deal or not. Just make sure you're doing it right, and in the long run, the math will work out. Okay, you'll get a certain percentage of your people you talk to will turn into appointments, and a certain percentage of them will turn into deals over the long run, over the course of a month. You might even have a bad month over the course of a year, right? You can have a sales slump that lasts a week or even a month, not usually, but you could have 1 month out of the year that's just a bad month. So don't don't change your technique based on just the ebb and flow of sales. Um, just you know keep working on trying to do the process the right way and make it repeatable, make it effortless, and just keep doing it efficiently and at scale. And all of these customers, all these potential customers, some of them will turn into actual customers. That's just reality. Uh, you're encouraging higher engagement, right? So you don't want like one word answers. You don't want them just everything you say, they're like, yep, nope, yep, nope, right? That's not engagement, right? So rapport will get them to open up and give you real answers, right? And relax and not be, you know, jerkish or whatever you want to call it, or just closed off, what have you. Uh, so know your material in advance. That's something that just comes with a little experience. When you're first starting, you're going to be a little shaky on some things, and occasionally they're going to ask you a question that catches you off guard and you don't know how to answer it. That's okay. Next time you run into that, you'll have a better answer. Right? Don't panic. Just if you're totally stumped, just be like, you know what? I apologize, but I'm actually brand new here. I just don't even know. I just don't even know how to answer that. But Sean could definitely answer it for you. And they'll appreciate the honesty rather than you trying to make something up or saying, "Well, let me go find out." Like that's probably not going to be helpful. Like, and then you get back to them in hours or the next day or something. Just tell them, you know what? I don't know. That's a great question. I wish I could answer that. Why do you ask? Right? That's a good way to kind of change the subject. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, yeah, I understand. That's a great question. Yeah, unfortunately, I just don't know, but Sean could definitely answer it for you, and he's really cool. I think it's probably worth, or don't say, I know it's worth 30 minutes of your time to talk to him. Well, what can it hurt, right? You're trying to get a job in this space, and he knows a lot about it. If he can't help you, he can point you in the right direction, right? Use that kind of attitude when you're talking to these people. Anticipate common questions. We know about that. So, and have your kind of word tracks prepared, and try to keep your answers succinct. One or two sentences. Uh, and one word is, if you can say absolutely, if you can answer a question by saying absolutely, and that's all you say, that's fine. That's great. So, or well, it depends, or no, that's not the kind of company we are. What we do is, have some sort of answer. Of course, we have the scripts and objection overcomes for that stuff. And the reason those are there is because they work. But it's not because there isn't a possible way to say those things better. It's just that we know that those work. Uh, they've been tested thousands of times, and so on average, they work when you're in a jam. Most people will accept those word tracks. So, but that doesn't mean that you can't come up with something better for the individual in a certain circumstance. Just make sure that whatever you're doing is working as well or better than the alternative of just copy and pasting a response. Maintain composure. So I know it sounds kind of silly, but it is possible to get emotional during these interactions, right? I mean, absolutely, right? That's why people fight on like YouTube comment sections or Twitter. People get all riled up. So it's possible to get riled up. So don't get riled up. Like I said, be ruthlessly detached from the outcome. You do not care whether they book an appointment. You really have to internalize that. Okay? You absolutely do not care. You're just doing your job to the best of your ability. Whether they decide to book an appointment or not is totally irrelevant, because you know that 30 out of 100 do, or whatever. You know what your stats are, and you should keep track of your stats, and you should be trying to improve on them and be like, okay, I did this much outreach. This is how many people I spoke to. This is how many people booked appointments. This is how many people showed up. Out of the ones that showed up, this is how many were broken and employed. And this is how many could have, paid for it if they wanted to, but just didn't, they didn't get closed. And then this is how many that got closed. So keep those stats so that you can keep track of how well you're doing, and you can see where your weaknesses are. If you see, oh, half of my people aren't showing up, that's an easy thing to fix. And that can, that's going to make a big, big difference. So, keep track of your numbers, and then just don't worry about it. Just totally be relaxed, totally, you're in control. Just do your job, have fun, don't get stressed out, and in the long run, all the numbers will average out. It's a numbers game. I know that's a cliche, but it's true. The only question is, what are the numbers, right? So but after you've been doing it a while, you'll be like, look, I know I set, 30% of the people I talk to on average. I know that, this many. Once you get that, comfort's very nice. Once you've been doing it long enough to kind of know what your stats are, and it's easier not to get worked up about it. But initially, you need to try to remain, detached from the outcome. That doesn't mean you're not painfully curious to meet this person, know more about them, get to know as much about them, and help them as much as you possibly can. But you're just not emotionally attached to whether they accept the help or not. Ultimately, that's out of your control. At the very end, you can steer it, but there's a million reasons why it might not work out. That there's nothing you might have been able to do anything about. So just try to do your job to the best of your ability, and not worry about the outcomes. It's the mental frame you want to maintain your frame, so to speak, and that will serve you well. You won't come across as desperate. You won't get all worked up and burn out. You'll keep a better mentality, and they will feel that from you, that you don't care, but not like you don't care about them, but they'll feel that you're just doing your job and you're relaxed, and okay, yeah, that's no problem, right? If they say, yeah, I'm not, blah blah blah, just go, all right, no problem. I'm sorry we couldn't help you. Hey, listen, good luck in your search, and stay in touch. Let me know how it goes. If you find something awesome, let me know. I want to hear about it. And then they'll be like, oh, what? Like that's going to catch them off guard. And then say, well, hey, listen, I'm going to send you a couple things just in case, and they'll help you, and I'll give you the calendar just in case you change your mind. And I'll tell you what, you'll be surprised how many people will book an appointment and not tell you if they have the calendar. And they'll put your name in there too. They'll say so-and-so sent me 90% of the time, even though you didn't even know it ever happened. So don't be afraid to give them the calendar if as a last resort. If it's like you just struck out, you couldn't set the appointment, just be like, okay, no problem, man. And then say, I'm going to send you a couple free training materials, and I'll go ahead and send you the calendar if in case you ever need it. And you know how to find me. If you ever need any help or any questions answered, don't hesitate to reach out. And then just send them, copies of the discovery script. Maybe at some point I'll make something like this for them as well, but this isn't meant for that. Send them the other materials that you have, and send them the calendar. And don't be like, tell them, Billy sent you. Just don't even, like, you don't care. Just be like, good luck, stay in touch. I hope everything works out, and let me know how it goes, kind of thing. And you will be surprised. A really high number of those people will end up booking an appointment because they're going to go. You're the best option out there. You have to remember that. It's easy to kind of get discouraged and be like, oh, this is blah blah blah. The truth, it's because you're not fully aware of the whole space. This is actually a really good program and a really good deal compared to everything else. Like, I literally don't know of a better, I'm not saying nothing exists, but I don't know for a fact that there's something out there that makes more sense. This is actually a really, really fair offer we have here, where people can practice this stuff, hopefully make some money and get better at it and start building their resume. So when they say, oh, I'm not paying any money, blah, 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 and they disappear, and you say, no problem, all right, da, da, da. They'll go out, they'll probably fall flat on their face some more, run into some more Bitcoin Telegram groups, and some of those will go, you know what, to heck with it. I'll go listen to what these people have to say. And almost, I'm telling you, 90% of the time, they will put your name. So you don't need to worry, well, I'm not going to get paid on it. That's not usual. It's very unusual that they don't remember who the setter was and they don't put a setter name there. It's like maybe 1 in 10 or less. And I can usually figure it out. I can usually figure out if they don't, have the name or don't remember the name off when they're filling out the form, I can usually get them to figure it out when I talk to them, or I can put out a message on Discord and ask, does anybody know, Dave Rubin or whatever, or Dave Bobby or whatever the heck, and somebody will usually say, yeah, that's mine, and I've never seen like a fight over that, so it's not something you need to worry about. Sometimes two people do set an appointment, right? But it's usually with a different closer, and occasionally that creates a little like, oh, what happened? That's happened to me, but it's not a big issue. Okay, so stay calm, actively listen. Okay, pause and reflect, which is going to bring us to the next thing we're going to talk about. So really listen to what they're saying. Don't be reactionary. Don't say the first thing that comes to your mind. Pause a second. Make sure you understood what they said. I mean, I've gotten in arguments with my girlfriend because I misread what she said in the text, and then I said something stupid, and then so that happens when you're dealing with DMs. So make sure you understood what they said. Ask follow-up questions. Make sure you understand it clearly. Pause and think about the best way to answer it, and give them as succinct an answer as possible while getting back to your question. So always finish your answer with a question. So like, well, it depends, da, 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 and then say, well, listen, and then blast your question. Get them back into, take control of the conversation. Okay, that's really important, that you don't just answer questions and then stop, because they'll just ask another one. So answer the question, and then in the same blurb, say, oh, by the way, I didn't think I heard you. Where did you say you live? Or they already answered that. Say, so what was your last job, or how much experience do you have in sales? Get right back into your questions. Okay, Lark, I didn't invent this. Okay, listen, acknowledge, assess, respond, confirm is a technique for active listening. So listen to what they said. Okay, you acknowledge. So you say, oh, absolutely, or oh, okay, great. You say something to let them know. Oh, so you worked at AT&T in customer service. Oh, that's great. Okay, that's an acknowledgement. Okay, now you assess. What does that mean exactly? Okay, if necessary, and there's any confusion, clarify. Right, and then once you understand completely, then you respond. Okay, and then you confirm. Right, so you say, if I understand you correctly, you've been working customer service at AT&T. It's not a bad job, but you're looking for something with more freedom, and really you want to work in remote. Is that right? Right. So whatever it is, just end it with a total condensed, concise condensation. With apologies for being redundant, of what they said, so that they understand that you understand what they said. Right, and they'll appreciate that, and also there'll be no misunderstandings. But they will really appreciate that you really understand them. Okay, that you were really listening, and that you really care. Like, that's huge. This whole thing, they're getting a warmer and fuzzier feeling the whole time. Okay, and this means that when they finally set the appointment, they're going to be like really committed, really looking forward to it. They're going to be on a first name basis with you. Okay, that means they're going to show up, and they're going to show up eager to learn more, right? With just an open mind and a positive attitude. And then when they run into something that's not quite what they expected, they don't immediately throw up the defense barriers. Instead, they're like, oh, that's not quite what I was hoping for, but because in their mind they're thinking, these guys are cool. Everybody I've met so far has been super friendly and answered all my questions and been super cool. So they're not like the first second things don't go exactly their way, they don't freak out. So that's kind of the way you want to think about this stuff, if that makes sense. Confirmation, that's the final step. Like I said, if you this friend of mine who's a appointment setting master corrected me one day. He said he agreed with what I was saying, but he said if you qualify the lead, they will show. And what he meant was, if you do the process before confirmation, if everything's done properly, you don't really need to worry about them showing. They will show up, and confirmation is not even really necessary. And I thought that was a really good point. Okay, so if you don't want to overdo it and you're positive, I mean, it's like you guys are all on the same page. You can do a really light confirmation. Okay, but you still want to say, hey, I just want to make sure you got the email. Could you please check the date and time and the time zone, and just make sure everything's 100%? And they say, it's at this time. Yeah, it's correct. And you say, so it's at 11 p.m. your time, is that right? And they go, yeah. And you say, is that too late? Do you want something earlier? No, no, 11's fine. I work nights. Blah blah blah. Okay, great, fine. You do not want a situation where they pretend and say, oh, I got the time mixed up. You want to clarify that now so that they can't come back later. And you don't want them to just make a mistake and think it was 11 a.m. when it was 11 p.m. or whatever. So you want to make sure you hammer that down. Uh, and then kind of just set expectations for the call. Be like, okay, great, you're going to talk to Sean. He's going to help you out, answer all your questions, and hopefully we can get you into high ticket. That's kind of the whatever. That's the expectation. That's what the call's about. Hopefully we can get you your first high ticket job, right? Get you on your way to financial freedom and prosperity, right? Reduce uncertainty about the what's coming up, right? Like you're going to have a Zoom call. It's going to be with Sean or Callie or Sebastian or whomever, and you guys are going to discuss, a way forward to see if we can get you your first job in the high ticket space, right? So, so they don't have any questions about what's coming up, right? Uh, Encourage engagement. So don't just be like one-sided yes or no. Like make sure you're on the same page. Right? This is the final thing. You've already set the appointment. Let's tie this thing. Let's crank this thing down tight. Let's get this show rate up to 100%. Let's make a friend, right? And then say like, okay, do you have any more questions, right? Um, okay, no, I'm cool. Everything's great. Thanks. Okay, terrific. Well, listen. If anything does come up for any reason you're not able to make the call, do us a huge favor and just go ahead and reschedule. There's a link in there, or cancel whatever you need to do. Just let us know so we're not sitting around and so somebody else can have that spot because we're really busy right now. So, oh yeah, no problem, right? Get them to commit to that, and then give them the old, oh, I'm really excited, man. I can't wait to work with you. I hope you come to work here. We'll have a lot of fun. Something like that, right? So that's future pacing. That's getting them to think, oh gosh, like they're starting to think they already work here, right? Like you're already a colleague, and you seem so cool and friendly, and that's just if you seem like you're having a good time, you seem friendly. Maybe that's the kind of the culture of the company. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's friendly. So that's kind of how you want to finish it off. So rewatch this or go through the slides. I can include the slides as well, and try to really understand it. Okay, that it's sort of just a checklist you're going to go through. It's the exact words are not important. Those can trip you up. If you've got some really sweet word tracks memorized, that can definitely be useful, but that usually takes a while to get that stuff to come off naturally and be automatic. And it's not always the right thing because sometimes it can sound a little pre-rehearsed even when it's not meant to, especially when there's certain words in there like fit and things that have been used a million times. But if you have a mental framework for how the process is supposed to go and you're just checking off sections, how was my introduction? It seemed good. They seemed a lot, they were positive about it. They had a positive reaction to my introduction. How was my report? Went really well. We're getting along great. Okay, great. Next step, right? And just kind of check them off and make sure you did everything. Didn't get lazy and skip anything and trying to save 30 seconds or 1 minute, right? When you could have spent 30 seconds or 1 minute extra and had a 10% higher chance of them showing up and a 10% higher chance of them buying when they did show up, right? So these little tiny things that don't take any extra time to speak of. I mean, we're talking the whole doing this process right compared to doing it improperly might be 5 minutes, right? Difference, the whole thing. So if you're talking about, it's just a few minutes, okay? It's worth it, believe me. If you'll have way better results and you'll have more fun, you'll be more relaxed, and overall, you'll be able to stick in the space and for long term and get better at it and make more money instead of getting burnt out and discouraged and cynical and dejected and so forth. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll be continuing to help you guys as much as I can. You can always reach out to me or even set an appointment to get on my calendar and talk face to face if you need help. But just keep up the good work and keep the faith that, believe me, if you stick with this, you will continue to get better, and you will continue to slowly turn it into a career instead of just a thing you tried this one time, if that makes sense. Great to see you all, and have a great morning, night, evening, afternoon, whatever it is where you're at. Take care now.